Well, so many questions. Let me turn to Bruce Fein. He's a constitutional lawyer and a former Associate Deputy Attorney General and General Counsel of the Federal Communications Commission. Bruce, I think one of the big questions is, could this draft memo or opinion, if you will, change the final ruling? Or are we going to see a ruling that reflects this memo?
All we know at present from Chief Justice John Roberts is that the leaked memo, which is a draft, is authentic. It's not fabricated. But a decision is never final until it's actually published.
Yeah, but I want your expert opinion. Do you think this could, do you think when that final decision is issued, it is going to be this?
I don't know. I think there's a likelihood, but there have been instances in the past where decisions have been flipped and justices changed their mind at the last moment. I think that the reaction with the leaked memo may well have an influence on what appears to be a 5-member majority at present, and they could ultimately balk. After all, it was Justice Alito, who was the author of this draft memo, who characterized the Roe v. Wade Casey pro-choice precedents as super duper precedents that had been reaffirmed on 38 occasions and would be a very, very steep hill to climb to overrule. He'd have to eat his own words if he's going to continue down that path, and he may do that.
So let's say, Bruce, that this does happen in June and Roe versus Wade is in fact overturned. Is there any legal recourse at that point?
No, sure. I mean, the legal recourse, all the 50 states can enact the same Roe versus Wade, Planned Parenthood versus Casey standard for protecting abortion rights as a matter of state legislation that was there previously as a matter of constitutional rights. You need to remember, as far back as 1967, I was then in California, Ronald Reagan was the governor, and he signed a statute that actually was a precursor of Roe v. Wade, but it wasn't the Constitution of the United States. It was a state statute. So there's nothing that prevents all the states, some of the states, part of the states, from reinforcing Roe v. Wade as a matter of statutory law, but states would have the option of not doing so. It's also true that a companion case to Roe was called Doe versus Bolton, which held that every citizen of a state has a constitutional right to travel to a pro-choice state to get an abortion. You cannot control that. No state has extraterritorial control over what happens outside its boundaries. So if you have many states are pro-choice states, even the women who live in non-pro-choice states would be able to travel, which is not inexpensive in some cases, but the biggest burden, unfortunately, will be on those who are low income and more impoverished. But otherwise, you just travel to New York, Connecticut, anyway, perhaps half the states.
Yeah, unfortunately, as you mentioned, a lot of people don't have the means to travel. Let me ask you about the leak itself. On such a polarizing, volatile issue, a major breach of protocol, Bruce, is there any precedent for this? Have you seen anything like this before, is what I'm asking?
I mean, the closest I can think of goes back more than 100 years, where the U.S. Supreme Court's disastrous decision in Dred Scott versus Sanford was leaked to President James Buchanan and made reference to it in his inaugural address. This was the holding that blacks had no rights that whites were bound to respect. But other than that case, I can't think of any other decision of any major importance that was leaked out in advance. So, no, this is exceptionally unusual.
All right, Bruce Fein, as always, thank you very much.